Have you ever pondered over the roots of Indonesia's maritime sovereignty? How did the largest archipelagic country in the world come to assert its rights over its surrounding seas? The answer to that lies in the historic Djuanda Declaration, an event that forever changed the course of Indonesia's maritime history. In the mid-20th century, the world was a tumultuous place, with nations striving to assert their sovereignty. In the midst of this, Indonesia found itself grappling with the question of its maritime boundaries. With over 17,000 islands, defining Indonesia's territorial waters was no easy task. The story begins in the early 1950s, when the newly independent Indonesia was establishing its identity. The international law at the time recognized only a 3-mile territorial sea, a concept that was inadequate for an archipelagic nation like Indonesia. In the late 1950s, the issue of territorial waters became a pressing concern. Indonesia's vast archipelago was being infiltrated by foreign vessels, exploiting the country's rich marine resources. The Indonesian government knew that something had to be done. In 1957, the government set up a team to study the issue. The team, led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs Subandrio, worked tirelessly, researching international maritime laws and consulting with legal experts. Their efforts culminated in the historic Djuanda Declaration, named after the then Prime Minister Djuanda Kartawijaya, who announced it on December 13, 1957. The declaration stated that all the waters surrounding the islands of Indonesia were integral parts of its territory. It asserted that Indonesia was an archipelagic state and its territorial boundaries included the seas between its islands. The Djuanda Declaration was a landmark moment in Indonesia's history. It not only asserted Indonesia's sovereignty over its waters, but also challenged the prevailing international maritime laws. This bold move was met with resistance from several countries, triggering a decade-long negotiation process at the United Nations. However, Indonesia stood firm. The Djuanda Declaration was incorporated into Indonesia's national law in 1960, and the country continued to advocate for its recognition at the international level. Finally, in 1982, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea recognized the concept of an archipelagic state, a major victory for Indonesia. The Djuanda Declaration fundamentally transformed Indonesia's maritime policy. It laid the foundation for the Wawasan NUsantara, or archipelagic outlook, which shapes Indonesia's maritime strategy to this day. It also had a profound impact on international maritime law, paving the way for other archipelagic nations to assert their rights. In conclusion, the Djuanda Declaration was a bold assertion of Indonesia's maritime sovereignty. It was a statement that Indonesia, with its vast archipelago, had unique maritime rights that needed to be respected. It was a defining moment that forever changed the course of Indonesia's history and the world's understanding of maritime boundaries.